they're arguably the hardest game to win. Both sides understand what's at stake and what is around the corner.
This is the purest weekend of footy.
You put yourself in the arena, fully understanding that you might get knocked down, but it's a risk you've got to take.
The anthem finishes and you feel the energy go through the ground up your legs. You've got to do that little warm-up and you follow, you're not even sure if your legs are working, and then you get, it's chaos.
I'm German envious of it. I mean, this is what you miss.
When you lose them, no matter if you're favourite or the underdog, it's a devastation. It's like being impaled is how I would sort of describe it.
Right on the boundary line, Tudor. He will kick after the siren. Oh, my goodness me.
It's not fair. We'll get used to it. Want life to be fair, you're going to have a tough life.
There's the kick. It's a goal. It's a goal. Well done at one.
When you can have success, it's so sweet because it's difficult, because there is a lot of pressure, because if you fail, it'll hurt more than you can comprehend.
The stakes so high. Ball throws it on the boots. He's kicked a magnificent goal out of that pocket.
In the back of your mind, you know there's a grand final at stake.
I think it's really tough to watch the grand final when you know that you're good enough to be there.
If you hear anyone say, oh, there's nothing to lose, that phrase needs to go in the bin.
But it makes the success so much more sweet.
They are the greatest games to win and the hardest games to win.
I'm not sure how much easier I want it to be.
And that's why we love the prelims. They do draw you in.
I'm exhausted.
Jared, goodness me, that was a good piece.
Yeah.
Jordan
Lewis, welcome.
Yeah, no, I think Nick's right. I think he said it in the. These are the weeks you miss. I can let go of week one of the finals, week two, but prelim final, there is nothing like it.
Jared Ruffhead, great to have you here. So what did you learn along the way about prelims?
They definitely are the most enjoyable from a fan's point of view when it's just your supporters. You know, you haven't got the corporates of grand final the next week, and they're obviously not full because you haven't got that week before a grand final. But for me, they were the loudest games. Now, we had some games that were really, really close as well, so that probably made it even louder, but they're the ones that you do remember, and even looking at the package then, some of the best games are the prelims.
And you?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a week where I dealt with probably ups and downs throughout my emotions more than any other week, because there's one part of you that wants to dream about next week. There's another part of you that probably wrestles with the idea of losing and going out and not being able to get to that final game of the year. And then it's just dealing with I suppose, the emotion and the ability to get some sleep. So I know my grand final week, I don't know whether Ruffy was different, but Andrew Russell used to always say, you've got to bank sleep early on in the week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, get as much sleep as you can. Get in bed by, 7:30, 8 o'clock, because come Thursday night, come Friday night, it's okay if you don't sleep because you've already got enough in the first part of the week. So that's another memory from that week. But they are the greatest weeks of your life as a footballer.
These are why coaches instill into players, play your role, effort. That's why the players roll it out, and they're the lines that all drive us mad. But they're the lines that help you in a week like this. I mean, for us, we had the bubble through that 9 and 10 period, which you just wrap yourself in, and everything else that was going along on the outside was sort of irrelevant. But what did you guys learn?
Ruffy, perfect.
Like Ruffy 5-0 and you 5-2. Like, what are you talking about there? Oh, they're the hardest ones to win.
Ruffy's always said we'd made the grand final in 11 if he was there. But
so let's work through a few of those specifics, shall we?
Right.
And 2008, you're all in there together.
All there,
Yeah, well, I remember these guys had come off a loss to Geelong, I think, in the qualifying. beat the Dogs, I think, the week later. No, Dogs, anyway, I don't know. I may have got it wrong. I've got it wrong there. But anyway, we've come up against St Kilda in this prelim, and it was Robert Harvey's last game. And for us, I think we got it done by half-time. It looked like it was over. So we were able to get a good lead, and then, some boys started to think about next week, really.
You kicked 4, Ruff. Geordie, you were best on ground.
Was I?
Yep.
Jeez, I must have got lucky. And that's why I suppose I look to this week and just go, thank God we've gone to a destination where there's crowds. So, we saw the Melbourne v Geelong game, and what an unbelievable game it was down at GMHBA, but there was no crowd. Just the crowds just add so much to the atmosphere. And, you look back on your career and you're really fortunate, but you understand if you sort of delve a bit deeper, there's a lot of luck. I mean, we had some close prelim finals. Port Adelaide is probably the one that stands out to me. That we sort of just got over the line, that the clock finished at the right time.
You weren't terrible, by the way. You took 9 marks and kicked 3 goals. So
thanks.
You held up your...
He was doing that off the camera, Jerry.
But at the end of that game, so you guys have obviously won and you go on to win. So that's 0-3 for my career in prelims at that stage. And you wonder whether you're ever going to get there. Particularly the more experience you get, the opportunity might have passed you by. Because it is absolute. Because it's almost, I wouldn't say it's harder, but to then sit and watch the next week is torture. Yeah. Absolutely torture.
So 2011, so you've won a flag and you're putting it back together, and then it's Collingwood. And Luke Ball enters as one of the iconic moments. So when Bud kicked the goal at one end, do you think, that's the climax, that's the crescendo this final I'm building towardes?
I'm in the coach's box thinking I'm missing out on a grand final next week. So selfishly, from a person who's not playing, and then 5 minutes later this happens, or 2 minutes later this happens, and it's just like, oh, we're out. And you just, the box is so flat, and then you look at the players about how much effort and whatnot that they put in, and it's over just like that in the space of 2 minutes.
So you're on the scene when Luke Ball kicks that. So how forensic is it after a prelim? Not coaches, but you. Do you go and look, oh my God, I was right there?
Yeah, and that's the hardest thing, I suppose, is because when it's a home and away season, and say if you're not playing finals, at least you've got the week to prepare yourself for the ending. And week 1 of finals, if you're a top 4 side, you've got next week, so it doesn't end so sudden. In that moment when Franklin kicks the goal, you are thinking about next week, and then wham, Luke Ball kicks a goal, then your season's just done. You are just in complete shock. The season's just finished so suddenly.
So we can see what happened next. How much do you look back on that 11 prelim loss as the moment that provided the catalyst for what was to come?
Yeah, I think from a motivational point, absolutely, but more from you've got to remain in the game mentally. So however the games pan out this weekend on Friday and Saturday night, understanding that, like Geelong v Melbourne, you'll have one moment. If you are in that defensive 50 when Max Gawn takes that maul, that is your moment that could cost you a prelim final. So you must remain for the 120 minutes, is it, for a game these days? You've got to remain attentive for the whole match.
2013, so you're down by 20 points at three-quarter time against Geelong. And there'd be an element of...
There was bad thoughts coming back there, Jerry.
Bad thoughts. And the opposition in Geelong, who we'd lost to 12, 13 times in a row, they've got some very, very good boys on the lit in that defence. So I remember Andrew Mackie running past and said, oh, well, Ruff, you'll be able to enjoy watching us again next week. And I was just like... I'm like, you're right. We're down by 20 points. We haven't managed to come back ever before against this mob, so what's going to change now? But we were very, very lucky that we had Sean Burgoyne that night, and the tables got turned, and we were able to do what they did to us for so many times before.
Yeah, and Ruffy's, I suppose, spoke about it before, the pure crowd that you have at these games. Nick, you've experienced, everyone's experienced it, but I sort of relate back to 2007 when Franklin kicked that goal, and this was probably the other game that stood out as being one of the loudest, especially in that last quarter where everything just sort of seemed to work, and moments like that, you see the crowd, and that's what hopefully these boys will experience this weekend. They're memories that you take with you. Once you're retired, you always look back on the most fondest, and this was certainly one of them. There's a lot of relief. I mean, the overarching emotion when that siren went was just pure relief. Because I reckon if we had lost that game, all hell would have broken loose.
Yeah, does Clarko make it out of Jeff Kennett's clutches?
You shake your head at that. We've had 10 more scoring shots, and only won by 4 points.
Yeah.
How many
Yeah,
points you kicked?
the contrast between Hodgie and Selwood there, within a second of each other, the shots. That's the prelim.
Yeah.
That sums it up. It's the jubilation and the devastation. Because it's absolute. One team's having the worst week ever. The other team's having the best footy experience of your life.
Yeah, it's one of the great weeks.